Well, good morning. I need a little class participation this morning. Can we do that? Y'all up for it? Anybody know what Tuesday is? It's election day, right? If you didn't know that, where have you been? Right? It's, this has been a crazy election season. And I've noticed just a few different things about this one. Maybe I've paid more attention. I don't know. But it feels like this one is just like more polarizing than any election I can ever remember. And we've been inundated, no matter what level the election is on, whether it's the national level or the local level. Man, we're just inundated with messages and ads and fire-starting junk mail and all that other stuff because, hey, it's an important time in our country. It's an important time in our country, and in 4 years, it'll be an important time in our country, and people are excited, and they're afraid, and people are worried, people are hopeful, people are threatening to pack their bags, and some of them, are kind of like, hurry, you need help packing. But I wanted to pause today and just talk about how do we respond as followers of Jesus. The things you're always told not to talk about, the two things are politics and religion, right? Well, guess what? We're talking about both of them today. So welcome to church. But we wanted to pause and just kind of talk about this and how we respond as followers of Jesus, because I probably don't have to tell you that who is up for election as our president of the United States. I would contend that the more important elections to us, and I would make a strong case if you wanted to talk with me about it, that the local elections are way more important than the presidential election for various reasons. But I'm not going to tell you about that right now. But we are going to talk about the presidential election because it's the one that gets the most headlines, right? And so there are two primary candidates running for president. Y'all probably know who they are. But I'll mention them, and so this is not a time to cheer or boo or anything like that, and to show your pleasure or displeasure with either one. But we know the incumbent is the guy in office right now, the guy who lives in the White House. His name is Donald Trump. He's the reality TV star, and we're going to find out Wednesday if someone gets to walk in and tell him you're fired, or someone gets to say you get to stay. And so there are many people in our country who think he's doing a great job. There are many people who think that he can stay in there and continue to keep America great. And then you have Joe Biden, who is no stranger to the White House. Obviously, he was vice president for 8 years under the Obama administration. He's been in politics a long time. You've probably heard that if you've heard any of the ads or anything like that. And so many people think that he is what we need to turn this country around. He is what we need to take hold of this country. And then there's some that think, man, just as long as the other guy doesn't get it. There's some that think, man, I'm not voting for, but I'm voting against. And then there's some people that think, is this the best we can do? Out of all the billions of people in this world, this is the best we got. I was talking with somebody a couple weeks ago about the election. He said, man, you got to be really bad to lose this election. Like just talking about like, is this the best we got? Like this is it? And lastly, there's some that think that we're just going to hell in a handbasket. And we're just quick on the way. But no matter where you reside inside of that, inside of those choices, here's the thing that I do know. There is a way that as followers of Jesus, we need to be engaged in a positive way and be engaged in a productive way. And if you grew up in this country, and I know some of us in here did not grow up here, and we're not American citizens, and there's people watching online, and we welcome you who are watching in different countries and stuff, and you did not grow up in this country. But I grew up in this country, and if you did, you probably were like me. You had to stand every morning and put your hand over your heart and say the Pledge of Allegiance to the flag, right? I'm pretty sure they still do that. And so I was lucky enough to go to a Christian school growing up, and so I got three pledges I had to say. I had to say the Pledge of Allegiance to the flag. I had to say the Pledge of Allegiance to the Christian flag, which is the white one with the blue box and with the cross, the red cross. And then I actually had to say Pledge Allegiance to the Bible, which I do remember that one. I pledge allegiance to the Bible, God's holy word. I will make it a lamp unto my feet and a light unto my path. I will hide its word in my heart that I might not sin against God. Now, that is a really good thing to do, by the way, still today, even though I haven't said it in probably 25 years. But that is still a good thing to live by. So today, I want to talk to us. I don't want to tell us who to vote for because, and I don't want to tell us how to vote. I can't do that. It's actually against the law for me to do that. And so I don't want to tell us who to vote for. I just want to tell us how we, as followers of Jesus, need to react come Wednesday. How we need to respond no matter who wins. Because here's the thing. Every president that's been in office, from number 1, George Washington, to number 45, our current president, has done some good things for our country. No matter who it is, Republican, Democrat, Independent, Whig Party, which was way back, the Republican Democrat Party, which was at one time was one party, they've done some good things for our country, from 1 to 45. On the other hand, from 1 to 45, they've done some bad things. You know why? They're human. The person who holds that office is a human being. But we in this country, through our media and through other things, we have a way of dehumanizing them and almost giving them a messianic complex to where they can't do any wrong. And if they do wrong, we crucify them. And so no matter what happens, no matter who wins Wednesday, I'm going to tell you this right now. The person who wins Tuesday, actually, but I won't be awake late enough to find out because those West Coast people turn in their ballots late. I got to go to bed. But no matter who wins, they're going to do some good things and they're going to do some bad things. It's proven, okay? Because they're human. So I want to take us back to the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag, which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty, justice for all. You remember that? I want to take us back, though, and I want to cover 3 things under that. One nation, under God, indivisible. And I want to remind us of those things and what that actually means to us when we call ourselves a believer, when we call ourselves a Christian. And I'll say this. I believe, and like I said, I know some of y'all here and watching online, you're not American citizens, and that's fine. But I believe America is a great country. Some would argue it is the greatest country. Some would say, maybe not. But most people in America would probably say it is the greatest country. And we have the freedom to do in this country what we are doing currently. In some countries, what I'm currently doing, I would be arrested and martyred and killed for what I'm doing. And you would be as well for being at church. In this country, you can do some great, you have the freedom to start a business. You have the freedom to marry who you want to marry. You have the freedom to have as many kids as you want to, and some of us in this room take advantage of that. Me included. And we should never take those freedoms for granted. Never. I believe we have the greatest military ever assembled, and I am honored and grateful for every person, man and woman, who has served our great country in our military. I know we have some veterans in the room today, and we're going to celebrate you in a couple days, and we should celebrate you every day. Some of those people paying the highest price they could pay with their life. I love our country. I love America. I get emotional when the national anthem is sung. I'm like, it just feels, you can feel the unifying nature of it. Like you can just feel it. Like when I go to games and we're there in person and you get to see that. And you go to a Braves game and that 7th inning stretch comes and Timothy Miller comes out and he sings God Bless America. You talk about, man, I get emotional just thinking about like our country and Lee Greenwood was right. You know, I'm proud to be an American. I'm proud to be an American. We want to sing that, but hear me. America is not the promised land. And Americans are not God's only people. As a matter of fact, I know God doesn't play favorites, but we're not even his favorite people. We're not the chosen people. And it's extremely arrogant. It's extremely dangerous. It's It's extremely self-centered. It's extremely small-minded to think about God's world revolving around Americans. Look, we can be proud to be Americans, 100%. We can fly our flags high and yell America all we want to. But as Christians, when you call yourself a follower of Jesus, you take on a higher calling. And that goes for anybody else, whatever nationality you are. When you call yourself a follower of Jesus, you take on a higher calling than your citizenship of your country. Our deeper loyalty as followers of Jesus is to Jesus. Look, your citizenship here on this planet is only for a short time. It's only for a short time. Your citizenship in heaven is forever. Because of that, I want to take this pledge, our Pledge of Allegiance, and I want to talk to us about what it means on a deeper level, our loyalty to Jesus, what it means to us as Christians. And so when we say we're one nation, when we talk about one nation, right, what does that mean? What does that mean as a higher calling than just being patriotic and being an American? There's a higher calling because when in 2 Corinthians 5:17, what happens in that when Jesus says, when we make Jesus the Lord of our life, we become a new creation, right? That the old is gone. The old self is thrown in the trash, okay? When I was born in 1979, I am automatically, because I was born here to two Americans, I am automatically born an American. Automatically, boom, okay? And so when I said yes to Jesus on September 29th, 1989, you know what happened? That American citizenship went down a notch. And my national citizenship, which is in heaven, went up. As a matter of fact, I would say this. I am first a Christian, I am second a husband, I am third a father, I am fourth a pastor, and then I'm an American. And I know some people won't like that, and that's okay. You don't have to be that way. But I'm not putting my country before my wife, I'm not putting it before my kids, and I'm not going to put it before my calling. And I love our country. Don't get me wrong. I would fight for our country. They'd look at my eyesight and be like, no, you're not. You couldn't hit the broadside of a barn with anything, okay? But you come after my spouse, you come after my kids, we're going to have problems. Fair? I think most of you would probably feel that way as well. But what happens when we take on our citizenship in heaven, we become ambassadors for Jesus. We become ambassadors. And later on in 2 Corinthians 5, it says this in verse 19, it says, and he has committed to us the message of reconciliation. We're become one with God. We're reconciled to the Father. It says, we are therefore Christ's ambassadors. As though God were making his appeal through us, we implore you on Christ's behalf, be reconciled to God. Notice it didn't say, hey, be reconciled to your country. No, it says be reconciled to God. Be reconciled to the Father. Y'all know what an ambassador is, right? It's a person who's sent to represent one nation to a different nation. Don't miss the implications of this verse right here where it says we're sent from heaven to represent God here. Okay? In a sense, we have dual citizenship with our Christianity winning out in the end. And so we're sent to represent the kingdom of God, his nation. Well, who is his nation? Because we say, well, what's his nation, right? What's the one nation we're talking about here? Every single living, breathing person on the face of the earth. Really? What about that guy or what about that guy? Yeah, he may hate America, but you know what? Jesus still died for him or her. I've said this before that things change in our life when we start seeing people, every single person. We look into their eyes and we understand that Jesus went to the cross for that person, no matter who they are. The most vile person you can think of, Jesus still went to the cross for them. How do I know that? Well, Matthew 25 says this, that hell was actually designed and meant for the devil and his angels, and that it's the Father's will that no man should perish, but everyone have everlasting life with him. No man, no woman should perish means that everyone. That's why we as a church, you'll see some shirts, if you come here and you'll see a sign on the outside in the hallway, it says, everyone's welcome. Because we believe truly that everyone is welcome. And the reason we say that is because nobody's perfect. And let me tell you, it starts right here, okay? But we believe with God, anything is possible. That means that I believe the most vile person can walk through that door and they can be transformed and changed by the blood of Jesus and the cross that he went to. I truly believe that. Look, as followers of Jesus, I understand we have things that sometimes in our country that things arise, and it's a lot of times it's a political issue. And we have a problem as followers of Jesus. We start to allow these political issues to influence us. You see, like I'll push down on kind of a hot button that we've heard in the last few years. And that's the issue of like illegal immigrants. Well, I can't help them. They're breaking the law. They might be. Y'all know drug addicts break the law too, right? Can we not help them either? Y'all know people who are alcoholics that need help. A lot of times, you know what they're doing? They're breaking the law. You know what prostitutes are doing, right? Breaking the law. So we should not help? Because when I read in my Bible, when Jesus said that the Samaritan walked across the street for the person who he didn't like, he didn't believe in, he didn't think was a good person, but you know what he did? He walked across the street and he helped him. And so, are we going to allow the things that are political to influence us, how we should act as followers of Jesus? Or are we just going to go do what Jesus tells us to do, what the Bible tells us to do, and let the people, whether they're efficient or not in Washington, let them handle the political issues? Look, I get it, okay? I understand it. And I don't want to facilitate them breaking the law. I want to help them not break the law. Whoever it is, whether it's a drug addict, whether it's a prostitute, whether it's an alcoholic, whether it's a person who's committing adultery on their spouse, or whether it's someone who's come in this country by breaking the law. Look, my job is not to worry about, my job is to help them do it, get it right. That's what God's called us to do and me to do. Because he sees every single living person as his creation, as his nation, and we should too. We should too. So we're one nation, and we're under God. You know, this in the pledge, this was not originally inside of the wording. It was not originally in there. The guy who wrote the Pledge of Allegiance was a Baptist socialist minister, which is kind of an oxymoron if you think about it. It's kind of like, government efficiency. It's, like balanced budget, kind of thing, and but actually in the early 50s, Dwight Eisenhower, who was president, wanted to add this phrase in response to communism that was starting to rise and some take hold and some threats that we had. So he got that passed, and so he put this phrase, under God, inside of the Pledge of Allegiance. And I'm fully aware of what's going on and them trying to take it back out. And, like I said, political issue, I'm not worried about it, okay? And so you've got these things. And so here's the thing: as in society, we live under one of two things. We either live under God or we live under culture. Here's the problem I see. On Wednesday morning, when people wake up, at least on the East Coast, and they start waking up and they start seeing who won. If we're able to see who won on Wednesday, I understand that it probably might be dragged out for a little while. But here's the thing. When it's all said and done, over 50% of the population in this country is going to feel a sense of that they lost. It's just the way it is. And look, in all honesty, I'm a little scared of what might happen. when people find out who lost. I read an article this week in the USA Today that was talking about, it was specifically in Washington, they were talking about Washington, D.C., but all the larger cities, they're advising them to go ahead and start boarding up their windows because they don't know what's going to happen. And so you see people bringing, like a hurricane's coming, right? Y'all familiar with hurricanes coming? Maybe tropical storms? Y'all live this week, right? But see, we have a bend in society to either live under culture or under God. And I think over the course of this time, the church is starting to bend towards living under culture. There's an old saying that what you tolerate in this generation will be the norm in the next. What you tolerate in this generation will be the norm in the next generation. And so we have a bend to kind of to live under what culture is telling us to do. Have you ever been around a drunk person when you're sober? I hope you're staying sober all the time, but have you ever been around a drunk person and you're stone cold sober? Like it's funny to kind of start to watch them, right? They get one drink in them and they're kind of like, they get a little loose. They get 2 drinks in them, they start to laugh at dumb things, right? 3 drinks in, what happens? They start to talk a little funny. Maybe they start to act and do some things. 4 drinks in, they get a little bit more. 5 drinks in, who they love starts to change. You know, they get a 6-pack in, who they think's attractive starts to really change. They start to lower their guard, don't they? And they start to lower their guard. We're slowly becoming drunk from culture in our society. And we aren't even aware of it. And usually, here's the thing. When that happens, nothing good happens, right? Nothing good happens. And I think that's what's happening to us. In the church, I'm talking about. We're slowly allowing culture to take over, to creep in. I thought of the story of Daniel. Y'all know the story of Daniel in the lion's den. Well, if you study the backstory behind that, what was happening was Daniel and his friends, the 3 guys in the fiery furnace, Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego, right? They were following Jesus. They were in their country following Jesus. All of a sudden, the Babylonians come in and take over. And look what happens in Daniel 1. It says he, who's the king's people, the main guy, he was to teach them the language and literature of the Babylonians. The king assigned them a daily amount of food and wine from the king's table. They were trained for 3 years, and after that, they were to enter the king's service. So think of Daniel right here. Everything he had known up to that point in his life, every single thing he had learned up to that point had just gotten ripped out from under him. King came in, Nebuchadnezzar comes in, who's a Babylonian. He says, guess what? You're no longer speaking that language, you're speaking this one. That'd be like somebody coming in English. If you speak English, you're being put to death. Sorry, it's now Mandarin Chinese. Anybody know that? Not me, okay? And so he says, yep, all the books you got, throw them right over there in the fire, because we're going to heat it up a little bit later for your friends anyway. And so throw it right over there because you can't use those. It's now Mandarin Chinese. That's all you get, okay? That's all. That's it. Then he comes in and says, guess what? You can't eat what you're normally going to eat. I'll give you a little bit of food, what I think is good for you. And guess what they also did? He couldn't even be called Daniel anymore. You know what he had to be called? Belshazzar. How terrible is that? Like he comes in and everything he knows is changed. All the culture around him has changed. But there's one thing in there, and don't miss this. He did not allow the culture to change his beliefs. In verse 8, look what it says. It says, Daniel resolved not to defile himself with the royal food and wine. Do y'all know what they had to do to the royal food and wine? They had to consecrate it and dedicate it to the Babylonian gods. And Daniel said, not on my watch. I'm not doing that. I'm not going to allow that culture to come in. Yeah, you can change my name. You can call me whatever you want to. You can change my language, whatever. You can change the books I read, but you're not making me change being under God. Not going to do that. He took a stand. And to live under God, you know what Daniel had to do? He had to make predetermined resolutions. He had to decide in advance that no matter what came from the Babylonians, I wasn't going to defile my God. I'm not going to take a step back. I'm going to react in a godly way. So you have to do, if you want to live under God, you've got to do that too. So when that thing comes, when that unexpected thing comes, when you're trying to do your finances, you got to say, nope, look, here's what comes first in my finances. Jesus, okay? I'm going to make this decision, my finances, and so when this comes, I'm not going to defile God. I'm not going to change that. That'll have to wait, okay? If I get in trouble, I get in trouble, but I'm going to keep Jesus first. Hey, look, if you're a believer and you're not married yet, when the good time to make decisions about sexual activity is not when you're in the back seat of a car. Okay? That's not, you got to make decisions ahead of time. You got to say, no, I'm not going to get in that back seat, because then when it comes time, it's a lot harder. If you're married, you know when to make decisions to not look at porn is? Not when you're sitting in front of the computer starting to search for it. It's way before that. When the decision to not talk about other people is? It's not when you're sitting at the water cooler and everyone else is gossiping and talking about people. It's before that. We have to make predetermined resolutions. Look, here's the thing about culture and Christianity. And I know there's a certain segment out there that wants to cancel culture, and that's become a new big thing, and all this other stuff. Look, I believe Christians should be influencing culture. But the problem is we're allowing culture to influence us too much, where we don't have any clout in influencing the culture around us. Here's what I know. No matter what happens Tuesday or Wednesday or in the next 2 months, I know who's not coming off his throne. And so we have a choice. We can live under culture, or we can live under the one who's staying on the throne. That's where I'm going. Because I believe we can live faithfully under God in culture. But people will laugh at us. That's fair. People will make fun of us. They'll call us names. I've said this before, that as a church, if you don't get called a cult every once in a while, you're not doing things right. Because when Jesus shows up, crazy things happen. All right? Read the New Testament. Jesus showed up. People who couldn't walk started walking. People who were dead came back to life. That's kind of crazy. I don't know about y'all. I hadn't seen that lately. Have y'all? That's kind of crazy. So we're one nation, under God, indivisible. Indivisible. Look what Jesus prayed in John. It says, my prayer is not for them alone, them being the apostles. It says, I pray also for those who will believe in me through their message. By the way, that's Jesus specifically praying for you. Okay? We are the ones who will believe through their message. It says, that all of them may be one. Father, just as you are in me and I am in you, may they also be in us, so that the world may believe that you have sent me. I have given them the glory that you have given me, that they may be one as we are one. I and them, and you and me, so that they may be brought to complete unity. Then the world will know that you sent me, and have loved them even as you have loved me. And if we want to reach this world, if we want to change culture, if we want to influence culture, it's got to start in the church. We call ourselves the United States of America. But I can promise you the United States of America will not be united until the church figures out how to unite first. Because if we want to influence this world and this country, the church has to be united. But we can't even figure it out. Y'all know how much I hear about our church in particular, but other churches too, just about how they do things and how, this and that and this and that. I was a conversation this week about churches, and I got introduced to a guy, and they talked about a nightclub church. They were talking about our church. He didn't know that I was the pastor here. Whoops, right? So I really wanted to say, hey, I'm Mickey. I'm the pastor of that nightclub church you're talking about. But here's the thing, does it really matter? Because I would guess some of y'all like the feel, right? You like the nightclub atmosphere. But I've heard like that pastor wears t-shirts. Yeah, I do. And jeans. People wear hats. You know you're not supposed to wear a hat in church, young man, right? They wear shorts, flip-flops. Preacher's just too shallow. That preacher's just too deep. I haven't been accused of that one. They just play rock music. It's just too loud. He doesn't use enough scripture for me. He uses too much scripture. You know, have you seen that? He used that translation that you're not supposed to use. It was not King James Version. Some of y'all are laughing because you've heard this stuff, right? Did you see all the tattoos on that guy on stage? Don't they know what Leviticus says about tattoos? Yep, we do. That church isn't just, it's not missional enough. They don't care about the community enough. That church only cares about foreign missions. Guys, it's like nonstop. The things that people figure out to complain about why can't we just look and say, hey, you know what? That church is doing what God has called them to do, and they are trying the best they can to reach the community. Look, I took my kids to other churches last night because the trunk or treat, and hey, my kids need candy too, all right? And so I went, and like these small little churches that we walk up on, and a lot of them I know the pastors and stuff, and so But man, I went through one of their lines and they're serving hot dogs, and this lady's back there. She's all masked up and got gloves on, and I just look at her. I was like, man, thank you so much for what you're doing. Like these hot dogs taste like rubber, but man, you bless me with just like being just serving. You know how good it was just to see the church in action. I don't care if it was our church or not. We got to understand that we're all on the same team. We're all fighting to reach the same thing. Worried about this church and that church. Look, I'm too busy trying to worry about growing our church and reaching more people here. I don't have time to worry about what other churches are doing. I believe the devil's number one goal and his ultimate mission is to steal the unity of followers of Jesus and churches. That's why we see so many of the same denomination of churches on every street corner. Somebody didn't like the color of carpet. Or somebody didn't like this, or somebody didn't like that. Look, I'll quote Rodney King. Can't we all just get along? You see, the mission of the church, my mission of our church, that I have for our church, is not to tell people or get people involved in the politics of our country. Like I said, I think we have a great nation. I love our country. But my goal is not to tell people how great America is. My goal is to tell people how great God is. I'm just thankful we live in a country where we can celebrate it. Where we can come, where we've got freedoms. But as long as we continue to allow the politics of our country or the politics of the church to interfere, we're not going to reach God's goal and what Jesus prayed for us to be, and that's one. One nation, under God, indivisible. Let's pray. Father, I thank you today God, I thank you that all the people in this room that were here and most of the people watching online, God, that we are here in America. I thank you for the freedoms that we have, that we can be here, that you've blessed us with that. Not in an arrogant way, not in a self-centered or conceited way, but just in a thankful way, God, that we do have this opportunity. God, that we have the opportunity here to tell other people about you. freely. But Father, I pray, God, my prayer is as followers of Jesus during this heightened awareness, during this time of our sensories being open to things of our country, God, I pray. Desperately, I pray that we don't allow those things to cloud our number one, and that's you. God, that we are first and foremost ambassadors for your kingdom, for your nation. So, Father, I pray. Pray for all of our churches, and all the pastors who are doing the same thing that I'm doing right now. God, speak through them. God, grow their churches. God, unite us. Grow your kingdom, your nation. And God, I'm thankful that we serve a mighty God. No matter what happens, if all hell is breaking loose right here on this planet, you aren't leaving your throne. You're not going to step off of it for 1 second. Father, thank you. So God, guide us in these days. Help us to be more like you. In your name, amen.